Welcome back to science class. My name is Miss Rillieux, and today we will be discussing body systems. In particular, we will be discussing the circulatory system and the respiratory system. Again, my name is Miss Rillieux, and I will be your science teacher for today. Before we get into our discussion about body systems, we are going to review what we did last week. Last week, we learned how to count atoms in a formula. So for today's warm-up, we are going to practice how to count atoms in a formula. Today's formula is 4CaCO3. So the first thing I want you to do is to tell me the number of atoms for each element in this compound. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds, again, to tell me the number of atoms for each element in this compound. 30 seconds starting now. Once the 30 seconds is up, we will together come up with the number of atoms for this compound. You have about 15 seconds left. Again, I need the number of atoms for each element in this compound. Down to your last 10 seconds. All right, so let's begin. The first thing you need to do when counting atoms for each element in a compound is write down all of your symbols so you can identify the different elements within the compound. The elements within this compound are Ca, C, and O. How do I know that Ca, C, and O, all of them are elements? In order to determine if a symbol represents an element, that symbol must start with a capital letter. As you can see, Ca, the capital C here, so I know this is one element, capital C here, this is my second element, and capital O here, this is my third element. Next, you need to write down the coefficient next to each symbol. So what is the coefficient in this compound? The coefficient is always the big number in the compound. So the big number in this compound is 4. Therefore, 4 is the coefficient. So I have my elements, Ca, C, and O, along with the coefficient for each of them. Next, you need to multiply the coefficient by the subscript. Again, this is my compound, these are my elements, and this is my coefficient, 4. Now, I am going to multiply my coefficient by the subscript for each element. So let's look at Ca. Does Ca have a subscript? No, Ca does not have a subscript, so we know that means there is only one atom of Ca because the subscript is not here. Let's move to C. Does C have a subscript? No, C does not have a subscript. Therefore, we know that there is only one atom of C in this compound. Does O have a subscript? Yes, O has a subscript. Therefore, we know that there are 3 atoms of O in this compound. Next, we multiply. So again, we have our compound along with our different elements, the coefficient times the subscript, and then our answer is 4 times 1 gives us 4. 4 times 1 again gives us 4. And then for oxygen, 4 times 3 gives us 12. This is what we did last week, counting atoms. Again, the coefficient must be multiplied by all of the elements within the compound. If an element does not have a subscript, then we assume that it is one atom of that element. And if an atom has a subscript, then it is that number that represents the number of atoms for that element. Today's objective, students will be able to identify the main function of the systems of the human organism, including the circulatory, respiratory, skeletal, muscular, digestive, excretory, reproductive, integumentary, nervous, and endocrine. For today's lesson, we are going to focus on the first two, the circulatory system and the respiratory system. The agenda for today. The introduction, we're going to complete a body system foldable. The guided practice, we are going to label that organ. The independent practice, name that system. And the exit ticket, some STAR practice questions. Materials, you will need paper and pencil. To create your foldable, you are first going to fold your paper in half, hamburger style. Once your paper is folded in half, hamburger style, you will then cut one half in half, like on the screen. You are going to label the top half circulatory system and the bottom half respiratory system. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to fold your paper in half and then cut the half, half of the half, and label it circulatory and respiratory. 30 seconds starting now. You have about 15 seconds left. Down to our last 10 seconds. And let's get started. So first, let's talk about the circulatory system. The circulatory system carries. So circulate, which means to carry. So the circulatory system carries oxygen, food, and waste throughout the body. The heart, which is pictured here, is the main structure in this system. I'm going to give you a couple seconds to write down some notes on the circulatory system. Remember, the function is to carry, right? All of our blood is circulating or carrying oxygen and food and waste throughout our body. The main organ within this system, again, which is the heart. The heart pumps blood through blood vessels called arteries to all other parts of the body. So the heart pumps the blood throughout the body through the arteries. They carry blood away from the heart. Arteries start with A, away starts with A. So the arteries carry blood away from the heart. And again, you can remember that by remembering that arteries start with A and away starts with A. Couple seconds to write this down. The circulatory system. Again, blood then moves through the veins back to the heart. So the arteries carry the blood away from the heart and the veins carry the blood back to the heart. Now remember, blood is circulating or carrying oxygen and food and other materials throughout the body. It's going up and down, up and down, up and down. Our veins carry blood back to our heart, and our arteries carry blood away from our heart. Give you a couple seconds to write this down. So let's move on to the respiratory system. So the respiratory system takes in oxygen from the air that you breathe. The lungs are the main structure in this system. So whenever you're trying to remember the function of the respiratory system, just think of breathing. Again, the main organ within the respiratory system, they are the lungs. And this is a picture of our lungs. I'm going to give you a couple seconds to write this down in your foldable for respiratory system. Air enters your body through your nose or mouth. It moves down your throat and then passes through the trachea and then your lungs. So as you can see from this image, the air enters either through the nose or through the mouth. It passes through your throat, then your trachea, which is also known as your windpipe. So you have to remember both, windpipe or trachea. And then from there, it goes to your lungs. So your trachea or windpipe is what connects your mouth and your nose to your lungs. So this pipe right here, the windpipe, is what's connecting this purple area, which represents our lungs, to our mouth and nose area. Give you a couple of seconds to write this down. Oxygen is taken into your blood and carbon dioxide leaves your blood. So as you can see from this image, we take in oxygen and we release carbon dioxide. Again, that's very important that we understand we take in oxygen. Oxygen comes in and carbon dioxide goes out. I'll give you a couple more seconds. You might want to draw the picture, write down the notes here that oxygen goes in, carbon dioxide goes out of our body. So our circulatory system and our respiratory system, they work together. The respiratory system gives oxygen and the circulatory system takes that oxygen to other cells. So these two systems work together. Without one or the other, we wouldn't be here. We need both. We need our respiratory system to give us oxygen, and we need our circulatory system to move that oxygen or carry that oxygen to all parts of our body. Give you a couple of seconds to write this down. So now that we have our notes for the respiratory system and the circulatory system, let's play Name That Organ. So first, this is our first picture. The first thing I want us to do is to decide what system does this picture represent. Does this picture represent our circulatory system, or does this picture represent our respiratory system? So look at the picture. Look at some key things within the picture to help you decide, is this a picture of our respiratory system or circulatory system? Yes, this is a picture of our respiratory system. Now let's talk about the organs within our respiratory system. Let's start at A. And we have a little definition to help us at the bottom. It says the blank helps draw air into the lungs. So what organ within our body gets air from the outside world into our body? Would it be the lungs, the mouth and nose, or the trachea? Yes, it would be the mouth and the nose, or mouth or nose. Next one, B. So B is pointing right here. And it says the blank is a long tube that leads to the lungs. So would that be the lungs, the trachea, or the circulatory system? What is that long tube called that leads to the lungs? Yes, it would be the trachea. And last but not least, letter C says the blank take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. And it's pointing to these two sacs here. Yes, those are images of our lungs. So let's review. This is a picture of our respiratory system. The respiratory system contains the mouth and the nose, which draw in air into the lungs. The trachea is the pipe that connects to our lungs. And then our lungs is where we take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. Let's move on to our next picture. So first, is this another picture of the respiratory system? Or is this a picture of the circulatory system? Yes, this is a picture of the circulatory system. And so now let's label some different organs within our circulatory system. This says the blank pumps blood throughout the body. So what pumps blood throughout the body? Yes, it is the heart. The heart pumps blood throughout the body. And it's pointing to the heart right here. The next one says carries blood away from the heart. So do arteries carry blood away from the heart, or do veins carry blood away from the heart? Again, we want to remember away starts with the letter A. So that would mean that arteries carry blood away from the heart, which would mean that the veins carry blood toward the heart. So let's review. The circulatory system, which is pictured here, is composed of the heart, which pumps blood throughout the body, the arteries, which carry blood away from the heart, and the veins, which carry blood toward the heart. Now, using your foldable, let's see how much we have learned. So, name that system. It's loading, and we are ready. The first question says, we breathe out when we exhale. So what do we breathe out? Helium, carbon monoxide, oxygen, or carbon dioxide? What do we breathe out? Right, we breathe out carbon dioxide. The main organ of the respiratory system is the arteries and veins, liver, lungs, or heart. What is the main organ of the respiratory system? Yes, it is the lungs. When we breathe in, our bodies use blank to live. Does our bodies use oxygen, carbon monoxide, nitrogen, or carbon dioxide? What do our bodies use to live? Yes, they use oxygen. What does the circulatory system help our blood carry away from our body? What do we carry away from our body? Which of these does our body not need? Yes, it is carbon dioxide. What do we call the tiny tubes that return oxygen, poor blood back to the heart? So out of these four, which one brings blood back to the heart? Yes, it is called the veins. What do we call the tiny tubes that carry blood away from the heart? Keyword, away. Any ideas? Yes, away starts with the letter A, and arteries also starts with the letter A. And we learned about the arteries today. The blank system carries oxygen and nutrients to all parts of the body. So what system? Is it the respiratory system or the circulatory system? Which system carries oxygen and nutrients to all parts of the body? Yes, it is the circulatory system. What is the main organ of our circulatory system? Main organ of our circulatory system. Any ideas? Yes, the main organ of the circulatory system is the heart. All right, so that is our independent practice. We're going to move on to the last part of today's session, which is our exit ticket. So using your notes, it says a student drew the picture of a human body system shown below. The student labeled some of the organs of the system. The main function of this body system is to F, sense odors in the environment, G, exchange gases within the environment, H, chew food as it enters the mouth, or J, trap particles that enter the nose. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to figure out which one is the correct answer, F, G, H, or J. 30 seconds starting now. Remember to look at the diagram. That's going to help you first determine the system. And once you determine the system, you will be able to determine the function of that system. But step one is to determine which system is pictured. I'm going to 20 more seconds. Down to your last 10 seconds. All right, so let's look at the picture first. Does anyone see any organs in this picture that we discussed today? Yes, we discussed the lungs. We also discuss the trachea and the nose and mouth. So because today we discussed the nose, the mouth, the trachea, and the lungs, which system is this an image of? Is it the respiratory system or the circulatory system? Yes, this is the respiratory system. The lungs is the giveaway. The lungs are the main organ within the respiratory system. So now that we know this is the respiratory system, we need to determine which letter represents the function of the respiratory system. So the respiratory system is all about breathing. So do we breathe odors, gases, food, or particles? What do we breathe in and breathe out? Right, we breathe in oxygen and we breathe out carbon dioxide. And oxygen and carbon dioxide, they are both gases. They're on the periodic table. We discussed the periodic table a couple weeks ago. So the answer to this question is G. All right, we have one question left. When people run long distances, their muscles require increased amounts of oxygen. Which system is responsible for carrying this oxygen to the muscles? A, nervous, B, respiratory, C, digestive, or D, circulatory? I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to choose your answer, and then we will discuss. You have about 20 seconds left. Down to your last 10. All right, so can anyone tell me what's the key word in this question that will help me determine the answer to this question? Or key words. Anybody see a section of this question that's really important and is kind of the giveaway for the answer? Yes, carrying this oxygen is key. So now that we see that carrying this oxygen is the key part to this question, we should be able to narrow down which system carries oxygen. right, the system that carries oxygen is the one we discussed today. It is the circulatory system. Well, boys and girls, that brings us to the end of our time together this week. As always, it's been a pleasure. My name is Ms. Rillieux, and until next time, have a great week. Bye-bye.